Hello everybody, it is Mr. Modern Financials here. So you want to distribute your music and maybe you've heard of SoundOn. Now this is a relatively new music distribution platform and it's through TikTok. That's probably why you're even checking it out, because you see all the artists blowing up on TikTok and you're wondering, hey, should I be using TikTok's distribution platform? All right, so it's called SoundOn. It's through TikTok. And I have been using SoundOn periodically for about 3.5 to 4 months now. It's not my main music distribution platform, and I'm going to get more into that later in the video, so stay tuned until the end, because I'm going to give you some advice in just what I'm using it for. But overall, I'm going to show my earnings, I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, the concerns, and then just give an overall, advice piece at the end. So make sure you stay tuned to the end. So how much have I earned through SoundOn over the course of 4-ish months? Okay. Well, as you can see here, I have earned $48.60. Not a ton of money, obviously, but also not nothing. It's pretty cool, I guess. Goes right into my PayPal, and it works. So you know that they do pay, because I've been paid through them about twice now. I think I've cashed out. So it does work. You get paid, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So when it comes to some of the pluses of SoundOn, and there's a few. Number one, I do think that when you use SoundOn, your music gets a little bump in TikTok. If I put out a track through one of my other two music distributors and I don't promote it at all, no making content around it, I find that generally they won't get many uses in TikTok, maybe a couple here and there, but most of the time if I'm using my other two music distributors, I don't get any free organic push. I have found, and this is just what I have seen from putting out a lot of songs through SoundOn, I have seen that songs, just putting them into the platform, even if I don't promote them, they'll get organic traction. I have one song that I did do through SoundOn that got over 1,000 TikTok videos made with it. So I don't know if they're going to come out and say, hey, you get a boost, or if they're allowed to do that. I have no idea. But I could tell you from personal experience, I could put out a track through SoundOn, and right off the bat, it'll get at least 10, 20 TikToks made using it. So that is cool. I do think you get a boost through TikTok with SoundOn. Number two, another cool thing about SoundOn is you get a ton of extra features, right? You could pin things, like if there's a TikTok you want, the first person to see, if they click your sound and they see all the videos that used it, if you could pin things, so that's really cool. It's a huge feature because you could pin a Spotify screenshot or something to direct people to that, right? So that's a cool feature. Number two, TikTok basically has their own mini sync licensing thing going on through CapCut and through their advertiser side, where if you put out a song, as long as you own everything in it, you're not using loops or anything, and I do everything original with my music, you can pretty much submit it to that, and they pretty much always accept it. And so advertisers can use your music when they run ads on TikTok, and I have seen the revenue I get paid from that is pretty nice. It's definitely more than just a normal person using your sound in a TikTok. I'm not sure exactly how much you get paid per TikTok made, but it's something. I really don't know. That's one of the things I don't like. I can't really see exactly how much is what. But overall, I do think that, it's a nice thing to have. Okay, so number one is you get some of these bonuses, these algorithmic kind of organic push. Number two, you get extra features, pinning things, and being able to have an artist profile. Number three, you get access to CapCut and their advertiser side, which provides extra revenue for you. So those are three really nice things off the bat. Now, when it comes to some of the things I haven't liked so far, my money from things like Spotify and Apple Music and what have you hasn't it's come in, but it's been at a huge delay. So anytime you put out music, like, and it's on Spotify, the first 2 months you're not getting paid for it, right? It doesn't come until after those first 2 months, and then it'll come out regularly. But I've just found in general, for everything when it comes to being paid through SoundOn, the money coming in, it's been a little bit longer than other music distributor platforms, okay? Not a ton, half a month, 3-4 weeks extra versus what it should be, versus my experience on other platforms. So if that's a concern to you of, not getting your money right away, maybe stick away from SoundOn. But it hasn't been awful. Like, I've gotten paid. It's just for some of the money that comes in through things like Apple Music and Spotify, it's, you're waiting a few months for it. So that's not the best, okay? So that's one concern I have. The second concern I have, of course, is if TikTok gets banned, what happens to SoundOn? And that's the biggest thing. If TikTok gets banned, what happens to SoundOn? I have no idea, because I don't think it's directly owned by them. There's this other company that kind of runs it, but it's through TikTok. I don't know exactly the legal framework of how this works. Just being real with you. I'm not a lawyer, but that is a concern. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. 3, for whatever reason, they say that they do YouTube, they distribute to YouTube, and they do, but they also say they have YouTube Content ID, and that has not been the case for me. All the songs I put out through TikTok did not get Content ID on YouTube, so that is a piece that isn't great. I don't know how else to say it. The other 2 music distributors that I'm going to get into in just a second after I give my personal advice for you, the other 2 I use do Content ID, so that's a big part. It's a big part of being an independent artist, is having Content ID. So when people use your stuff on YouTube, you get some of the revenue. But for whatever reason, they put it on YouTube for me, but they didn't have Content ID activated. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. And then another small tidbit is, for whatever reason, I don't really do SoundCloud too much. I don't push on there too much, but every once in a while I check. Some of my songs got on there, some didn't. Okay, I have no idea why. I wish I knew. And that gets into my last kind of issue, is that support is iffy. If you're someone who needs to be able to get in contact with, a person through your music distributor, and you want to be able to do it within a week, no. I waited a month to get a response from them, and it didn't really help me too much. So customer support is lacking. So overall, we have some good things and some bad things. Okay, so what do you do about this? Okay, well, let me tell you what I've been doing with SoundOn. I have personally been using SoundOn to distribute a lot of tracks that I'm not even putting on Spotify. Okay, and what I mean by that is I've been using SoundOn to put out a lot of tracks that have been sitting, that I've just had, anyone who does everything themselves, produces all their own stuff, knows that, you have hundreds of files on your, whatever. So what I did when I first started using SoundOn was I took a ton of my demos that weren't even completely done and just put them into SoundOn, okay? And some of those got pretty decent traction in terms of being used in TikToks, because the thing is, it's like, maybe these tracks weren't finished, they weren't finished with mixing. I didn't finish mixing it. I didn't finish all the production side. There was a couple of issues here and there, so I didn't want to put it on Spotify, but I don't have the time to finish it. Put it on through SoundOn, and it's like, okay, I can make some money from it. A little bit, not a ton, right? $48 for, 3-4 months. So that is what I did. I took a ton of my demos. I took them, I sped them up, I slowed them down. I had the originals, I took the instrumentals I made, and I just bulk uploaded them to SoundOn, and that's what I did at first. And then I, made a couple songs specifically for SoundOn. So what my strategy for SoundOn has been is pretty much putting out tracks that I think are good enough to be used as a background to a TikTok, or kind of good enough to be used in an advertisement, because again, it's like a micro sync licensing type of thing with their advertiser side. but I don't necessarily want on Spotify. Okay, that's mainly what I've been using SoundOn for. I've put out a lot of instrumentals through it. I've put out a lot of demos through it. Things that only a couple songs that I used to put on through SoundOn, only a couple of them I also put on Spotify. So that's kind of how I'm using it. I'm using it for TikTok pretty much. And that's what my advice to you is if you're looking to use SoundOn. That's my personal advice would be have a main distributor, and I'm going to get into which ones you should use in a second. Have a main music distributor and then use SoundOn for your lesser tracks. Okay, when I say lesser, I don't mean bad. I just mean tracks that might not be finished mixing, or maybe they're not your general vibe. You don't really want it on Spotify, whatever it is. Maybe they're more experimental, whatever it is. Use SoundOn for those tracks. So like your secondary tracks. That's how I'm using SoundOn, okay? For my secondary tracks. Now for my main tracks, number one is Root Note. This is the one I would recommend for most people watching this. And if you do want to sign up with Root Note, I have a link in the description. Root Note is completely free. They have YouTube Content ID, and they distribute basically everywhere. It's completely free. They do take 15% of your royalties, but the reason I say for most people watching is because if you're not doing 20,000, 30,000 streams a month, who cares, right? It's free. You know, the money you make, you know, by having it be free is worth that, in my personal opinion. So link is in the description. If you use my link, I think you might get some sort of a bonus. I'm not 100% sure, but it's free anyway. So just use my link if you're going to go with Root Note, which is what I would recommend. Now, the second option, and this is the one I use for a lot of my releases, is TuneCore. This costs $20 a year, roughly, has all the same features as Root Note, but they don't take that 15%, but you're paying the $20 a year. It has YouTube Content ID, has everything you need. So definitely one of these two options, right? Root Note or TuneCore. And if you go with Root Note, use my link below. Use SoundOn for your secondary tracks and for things that you think just would fit well on that platform. And stay away from DistroKid. If you haven't seen my video on DistroKid, I'm going to link that in the description. Check it out. Do not go with DistroKid until you watch that video, because it's probably going to change your mind. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and once again, check out my link to Root Note. I'll see you next time, and peace out.